Hello and welcome to the weekly dose of Emuna for Shabbat Kodesh. Today we're going to talk about the Shabbat as a form of homecoming, feeling like we're really coming home every Shabbat. So we learn from the Torah that the whole idea of existence here in this world is we live in a world that's broken. We live in a world that's shattered, and it really is part and parcel of our tafkid, our mission in this life, to mend it. To be able to really direct ourselves together, to partner up, so to speak, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in order to bring about its rectification, its tikkun. That's the idea. We see a lot of fragmentation in our present state of being. We don't see any perfection, very rarely at least. We want to strive to see wholeness. That essentially is our destination. So where are we right now? We're really in a state of exile, of galut, of temporary displacement. But what is the end? The end is the redemption. Be'ezrat Hashem bekarov, the geula shlema, which is really another word for saying homecoming. So let's just take a look at the exile for a moment and just see that there actually are three sides to the exile which actually plagues the world right now. The first one comes from the exile of actually Hashem himself, the displacement of the Shekhinah, the divine presence, from its proper place. In other words, what happens is that in the divine cosmic sphere, if you want to call it, there's a separation between the male and the female aspect. And that is essentially an exile of what we call the Shekhinah Kadosha is sitting in exile with us, with her people. The second part of the exile is really the exile of us, the Jewish people, from our land, where, although, yes, living in Eretz Yisrael physically, but it really doesn't always feel like we own it and that it belongs to us because, of course, we're subject to a lot of harsh words and criticism from the rest of the world. So we don't really feel comfortable enough to say that this is ours and be able to proclaim that and broadcast it with worldwide acceptance. And the third part of the exile is really the exile of each and every person within himself. It's sort of a sense of alienation, that we feel estranged from our environment. We're sometimes unsure of ourselves. We're feeling lost, hostile, maybe sometimes even caught in a sense of meaningless sort of existence, like, why am I even here? On Shabbat Kodesh, we have the opportunity to really triumph and overcome this threefold existence of the exile and feel on this day that we are truly together in one on all three levels. And we're going to see now, I'm going to talk about how really on Shabbat Kodesh, what happens is Hashem, so to speak, the king, the male aspect of the Godhead, really meets up with his bride, the queen, the Shekhinah Kadosha, the female aspect, and they come together gloriously, this amazing, intimate meeting. And that's why Shabbat Kodesh really reflects this divine reunification. So on a level of the exile of Hashem, so to speak, the male and female presence, we see how on Shabbat Kodesh we're able to really experience the reunification of that. On the level of the people of Israel not feeling that they have a land, well, Shabbat Kodesh reminds us of Maaseh Bereshis, the creation of the world. It gives us a sense of purpose in terms of why this world came into being, who created this, the cosmos and the universe as a whole, why we're in existence. And so that in itself also gives us a very strong sense of coming home. And Eretz Yisrael is really that sense of being at home. And on a personal level, the sense of alienation that every individual sooner or later might come to, sometimes more, sometimes less, there really and truly is a sense of homecoming on Shabbat Kodesh if we're tapped into the meaning of what Shabbat represents. We come home from that alienated sense, that existence of being in a strange world. Because on Shabbat, I tap into the whole idea of honoring HaKadosh Baruch Hu and understanding my connection to Hashem. And when I understand my connection to Hashem, when I stand and light those Shabbat candles, and I realize what this whole work week was all about, that sense of loss and confusion, the darkness, it's all gets wiped away. It all slowly dissipates as the Shabbat candles illuminate the home. And so it really gives us a sense of why we're here. And so Shabbat has this opportunity, is the once a week opportunity for us to leave our exiled feeling aside and really come home. Be'ezrat Hashem, this Shabbat, may we all feel like we're truly at home. Have a wonderful Shabbos.